Have you ever worried that you might be the cool kid? You wear the latest fashions on top of all the trends. Or have you ever worried you were too much in the mainstream? Always so generic, more normal than your friends. Well, we've devised a test to put to rest your fears. There's no need to panic if you lend us your ears. Tonight you can sleep easy after all that you've heard. Cause if you like the show, then you're probably a nerd. Oh, Canon, it's Canon, it's all.
Hey everyone, and welcome to the It's Canon podcast, the show where we talk about all things geek, the show where we talk about all things pop culture, the show where we talk all things comic books, movies, books, video games, Lego, and so forth and so forth. And the best part of everything is that it's all in canon. That is right, we are back after a brief hiatus. We will explain why we had this hiatus. Classic Boris move, let's just say that. We're hosts, I'm Boris, and as always, I am joined by Phil.
Wow, this feels weird.
I know, right?
Yeah, it's been a while. How are you doing? How is everybody doing?
Yeah, I'm sure everyone, hopefully everyone is doing good. Yeah, let's just start talking about why we had the hiatus. So, couple months ago, I guess 7 weeks ago, 7.5 weeks ago at this point, 6.5, 7.5, I don't even know what I'm at this point. Freak accident, ended up breaking, absolutely shattering my ankle. Like, for those of you who are listening to us on podcast form, go to YouTube, go to Twitch, go to one of those platforms, because you can, like, I'm not going to show anything, but I'm just going to explain visually how horrible this injury looked. Long story short, like I said, complete freak accident. Took a bad step, ended up in a very bad position, and my ankle just shattered. Bill, this is the ankle, right?
Yeah.
It was like this.
Oh, man.
It was actually floating. If you look at the x-rays, it was like floating. It was hanging on to nothing.
This is like those footy accidents in Europe when they go through the guy's leg.
Yeah.
At the ankle, and they actually do. You know what I mean? Like, oh.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Yep.
I'm so sorry to hear that. I've been in contact with you. Just so everybody knows, it's not like I'm heartless. Been in contact with Boris. I've known about it, and we've specifically allowed the show to slide for a while because, and I'm not exempt from reasons as well, because I get eye appointments and I have to get them every 6 weeks, and my doctor has now decided that Mondays are a great day to do it, specifically Monday afternoons lately. And this procedure is very unpleasant. It's an injection into my eye. Yeah. And my friends were talking to me about it, and I'm like, they pointed something out to me. It's like a zero reward experience doing this, because if I get it done consistently, my eye health will remain up to snuff. So there is that reward. I am beneficial of that and thankful for it. But if I move my eye during the injection, my eye bleeds. The other side effects can sometimes be air bubbles in my eyes, and those make work for the rest of the week a hell of a thing, because it changes light perception, it changes darkness, it's everything just goes right out the window until Thursday. So crazy, I'm not exempt from it, and I feel for your pain, Boris. I've had foot issues.
Oh, I know.
Nothing like that. Those surgeries sounded gnarly.
Yeah, there's something to say the least, right? So, like, I get to the ER. Kudos to everyone at St. Mike's here in Toronto. Awesome hospital at the end of the day. The only reason that I don't know how, like, to what extent, but the only reason my ankle is even back to where it should be is because the surgeon who operated on me is top 10 in the world for ankle
Oh,
injuries.
thank goodness.
That's how bad. Yeah, exactly. That's how bad this injury was.
You're very
So
lucky to not
essentially,
have an amputation, right?
dude, 100%, like legit, like all joke, like no joking, like legit. It was that bad of an injury.
Yeah. I'm not shocked about that. Like, yeah, for
And
those that know, I have
yeah, so
amputations.
yeah, so they were able to put everything back. Like, I'm gonna recover to 100%. Well, as close to 100%. And to be honest, I'll probably be better off than I was earlier, because I
Good.
will say, like, I think you and I were talking about it, and I think I mentioned it. I think even on this show, I talked about it once. Remember how I told you how I just fell randomly when I was
Mhm.
with my friend?
Yeah.
Like, it was the same leg, it was the same foot, right?
Yeah.
And that night that I fell, it felt like nothing was there. So I had tendon and Achilles and God knows what else issues already, right? So I think
Yeah.
my ankle just said, like, that's it, no mas, and it just completely gave in. And yeah, so 3 surgeries later, might need a 4th. We'll see, man. But like, I'm ahead of schedule. It's only been 6-7 weeks. I'm still non-weight bearing, technically speaking, but you know, I'm not feeling any pain at this point.
I love it when
There's
they give
barely
you
any
that.
inflammation. What?
I love it when they tell you that. No weight bearing. Well, then why did you release me? Because the
Right?
first thing I'm gonna do is move around my house. Like, with
That's
crutches or not, like it's going to be weight bearing to a degree. Like they
that's the
told
thing,
me,
right? And
yeah,
that's
they
been
told
the
me the
hardest
same thing.
part. Yeah, that's been the hardest part to all this, right? It's like, just
Yeah.
like, I don't know what they expect you to do. Just literally lay down and do absolutely nothing, not live, right? Like, it's
One thing that I would recommend that you look into is go on Amazon and get a leg elevation pillow.
oh, I got one. I got one.
Okay, because that's good at night, because then you can elevate your leg above your heart, and then that will force circulation and heal your ankle
Yep.
better. So it's
Exactly.
difficult to sleep with it. That's the only thing.
Yeah, that's exactly it. Yeah, so I got one of those. Um, I feel like I'm gonna be ahead of schedule. Like, my next surgeon's appointment is December 12th, and I already feel like, the swelling is basically gone. I have movement to the ankle, just it's not full. It's still stiff, right?
Mhm.
I ended up getting a bunch of bolts and screws, and there's one bolt that goes through the entire ankle bone, and essentially that one, they need it to get what do you call it, scar tissue and all that to build, so that I
Yeah.
can actually bend it. So
Well, one other trick that I have in my pocket is I went to Shoppers Drug Mart. They have these stores that sell medical devices, and I picked up what's called a knee scooter. So you take your
oh yeah,
bad leg, you bend your foot onto the skateboard bench that has handlebars. So it's like riding a bike, and you
yeah,
push with your good leg. And
I know.
then you're
Look,
not putting weight
the
on it. It's so much fun in the mall on the marble floors.
I know. The issue with that is just that, right? It's just like, I don't want to do anything stupid. I don't want to injure my other leg. I don't want to fall. I don't want to do anything
Yeah.
dumb. So I am with a walker. They didn't even want to give me the occupational and physical therapist. They don't recommend crutches anymore. Just
Good.
people end up hurting themselves in other places. So
Oh,
I have a
yeah.
walker. That's been working. It's a fucking walker, right? It's hard to
Yeah.
go places, and it's tiring as fuck, and I'm
Yeah.
weak as fuck. I'm tired all the time. So yeah, so we'll see. But needless to say, long story short, or short story long, I should say, is that I'm feeling fine in the grand scheme of stuff, right? Like, I never actually realized how much pain I was in until I wasn't feeling pain. I'm still feeling pain every day. Still have the nerve issues and stuff like that. Like, the nerves are reconnecting and waking up and healing and all that. So,
Oh,
I
lucky.
get the random leg twitches and the ankle twitches, which feel weird because it hurts, because it's like literally bending my ankle in directions it probably shouldn't be bending. But overall, it's going well.
I have nerve issues in my feet. And this is how I know God has a sense of humor. He took away feeling, but he gave me pain.
right?
Like, right. So I'm get those neuropathy foot bolts, the electricity, and it just causes your foot to hurt and cramp, and oh, it's awful. But that's part of life, right? Oh,
Yeah,
good
dude.
for you
Honestly,
that
like
it's happening. So like that's a good sign.
the horror stories though that I was because so I was at St. Mike's for a few days, and then they sent me to a rehab clinic because I couldn't go home, right? But you know, here in Ontario in Canada, they try to get you out of the hospital as fast as possible. Luckily, we have these
Yeah.
rehab centers where it's like for long term stays and stuff like that. I was supposed to actually still be there at this point, but I progressed to the point where they're like, okay, you know, you don't need to stay anymore. So, anyways, I was in the floor with a lot of broken bones and amputations, but everyone that I seemed to interact with had amputations and stuff. Man, the luck that some people have is insane. Like I kept thinking of you and like some of the luck that you've had. The one of my roommates, he got basically amputated from the knee down because he was walking around Chinatown, got a rock in his shoe, took it out, but it ended up getting infected, and next thing you know, he got
Well,
amputated, and then it infected, so he had to get
yeah,
more amputated, and
yeah,
basically he's walking around, like hobbling around with like a huge antibiotic pack that just like Darth
yep,
Vader, like pushing antibiotics into his leg constantly.
yeah. I can say, with confidence here that, well, not to get too graphic, but when I had my infection in my foot, it gave me sepsis, which nearly killed me. And the doctors don't like telling you that when it happens.
Oh yeah,
All right. They just, oh, you're really sick. and then I had to wear that antibiotic pump for, I don't know, I didn't talk to anybody about it. I had to wear it for about 6 months. And I had to get the medicine shipped in from Mississauga every few days. I had to get a nurse in to change the entrance points once in a while. I went to
yep,
Rise of Skywalker on antibiotics, which is probably why I can't really remember them in the theater, because I was just like
probably.
that. I showed it to one doctor when I was in the hyperbaric chamber program, and he looked at my antibiotics and he turned white. He was already pretty white because he was English. And he looked at me and he looked at my dad, because my dad had to drive me down there. And he goes, "This is stronger than most people's chemotherapy."
Yeah.
And he told me when I got discharged from the program, he said he didn't think I was going to live, looking at the antibiotics that I was taking. Like, and it was pumping 24 hours a day. You have to sleep with the pump. You have to charge the pump. It's
crazy.
a thing, man. It
It's crazy.
sucks, but you got to battle. Like, that's the one thing that you got to do, and you're cut of the right cloth, because life, when they throw you curveballs like that, you have to fight it off. You can't just give in. Like, they wanted to take my leg. They wanted to do all kinds of stuff. I would just be like, nope, get out. I want to see a different doctor.
Yep.
I demand better, because I'm not accepting that I'm going to lose my leg just because I broke a toe and got 2 toes infected.
Yep.
And sure enough, I had a doctor that came in, looked at it, and finally said, "You know what? I can have you done by Sunday. We'll take 2 toes and you're going to be fine." And sure enough, she was right. Like, so far, knock on wood. But
yeah.
it's I'm really happy that there was no amputation, and amputation isn't the end of the world either, right? It's
I know.
Glad for you.
It's one of the, it's really weird because like I had this moment laying down in the ER, and again, sorry if this is a little too much for people, where it was kind of like I almost accepted it. Like, it was so weird because I didn't feel pain. I know it was adrenaline and everything. I knew that something was off. I knew that something was fucked, but I didn't really feel the pain. Like, people said, like, they have no idea how I was even interacting with anyone, because I was like normal, like the way that you and I are talking right now. This is how I was having conversations with people. There were times where I would move and I would be like, oh, my leg is just like dragging, or like my foot is just dragging on the bed. So that's when I felt it, right?
Yeah.
But typically speaking, I didn't really feel it, and it was but I had this moment of where it's like, okay, if I do get amputated at this point, it's not the end of the world.
No.
There's so much technology and all this stuff now.
The only thing I know a couple people who have the legs and stuff, the legs aren't cheap. It's not covered by the government. It's not covered by, like there's so much. The one thing that I've learned, everybody thinks in Canada, everything's paid for by the government. There is so much that is not paid for by the government. There is so much where you have to rely on your benefits, and even your benefits have monetary limits for dosages, for things like that. And most people have to private fundraise to get the money together, because we're talking a lot of money. I can't even ballpark it, but I know it's in the, like large amounts, like many thousands of dollars, like not just pocket change, like tens of thousands, if not more. So I like I say, it's not the end of the world. You got to keep fighting. And all the listeners who are directionally challenged or having to, use augmented parts and everything, my heart's with you, and keep fighting.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. That's really the best. That's the best message that you can give to people. Like it's crazy, man. Crazy road.
Yeah.
It's been a crazy few weeks, to say the least. But I'm happy that we're back. I'm happy that we're able to talk things. This episode, we're going to be catching up, and then our topic du jour is essentially going to be what the fuck happened with Netflix and what is going to happen with the NFL and WWE. But we're also going to be talking about just streaming in general, like, this whole change with live sports and streaming, and is this good? Are they capturing the right audience? Are they leaving some of the audience behind? We'll talk about that a little later. But Phil, let's catch up on a couple things. So, and a lot of our listeners know that when you're not really, really feeling well, it's hard to like pay attention and really put your heart into watching stuff or playing video games and stuff like that. Like I've tried, especially video games, I find right now I'm just not in the mood. But I have been watching a lot, and I've been catching up on a lot that I missed. So a couple weeks ago, watched Terrifier 3, watched 4:30, the movie, which was fucking awesome, like you said. Really did enjoy that a lot.
It's a very underrated movie.
Yeah, it's classic Kevin Smith, right? It had the charm of Chasing Amy.
Yeah,
I think.
Oh, for sure it did. It had the charm of Chasing Amy. It had the foundings of Clerks.
Yes.
Right? Like it was like a less vulgar Clerks. Yep. And you could see how the two are so related, and I hope you watch the end credits all the way to the end.
Of course. So,
I think
of course they were obviously they were talking about, like, I love my favorite part about the movie was any time that they would reference the future and say there's no way that this would happen or something along those lines. Like, it was really well done. It was a very like smart Kevin Smith movie, which it's been a while since we've had.
I finally got my hands on the 4:30 movie, 4K, and it's done up. Get this. Out of the sleeve. It's done up like a VHS cassette.
Oh, that's beautiful. That's awesome. Well done. Well done to those marketing people. It was a good movie.
It's not easy to get this. You have to watch on Amazon, and Kevin Smith will basically tweet out or mention it on social media that Lionsgate Studio has them in stock, and then they sell out. And it's going to be the same way for the Dogma Steelbook when that comes out. So,
yeah. That one's already a collector's item to begin with, right? So
yeah, I got my Bible version in back.
Yeah, I love that. Did you see that they have hinted at Kevin Smith working on Dogma 2?
I can report right now because I saw him break down a video today that he is currently writing it. However, writing it means that it's in his head.
Exactly.
It does not mean he's plunking away at a keyboard. He's got to finish Moose Knuckles. He's got a bunch of projects that he needs to get done. He needs to rewrite or refresh a script for Moose Knuckles. They need to shoot it. And then he said he's going to sit down and plunk out Dogma 2. He's writing Ben Affleck's and Matt Damon's characters. He doesn't know if they want to be in the movie.
Yeah.
So he's just like, yeah, I'll work around it.
Exactly.
So
and with Dogma, it's easy to say why they could be different actors and stuff, right? Like that's an easy way to write around it. So, but yeah, I love the fact that he's back writing these classic View Askew universe movies again.
yeah, that's really good. He's also mentioned in the some of the extras on the Blu-ray that he'd be interested in possibly doing a second 4:30 movie and calling it The Midnight Show.
Yeah.
And that would be a little bit raunchier of a movie, but the next logical stage of where that experience went for him, because all the guys are in it. All the guys are people that he grew up with type thing, and representatives of people that had a lot of impact on him growing up. And the great thing was he bought the cinema.
Yeah.
So that's the Smodcastle or Smodcast cinemas.
Yep.
So he bought it and it had everything in it from like 1985. So he's like, before we renovate, let's film the movie here. So, and this is the first movie he did since quitting weed.
Yep.
So that's why it also felt a little bit, I think, dialed back on the vulgarity and a little more wholesome in its message, just because he wasn't in that munchy headspace. You know what I mean?
Yep.
So that also touched me a little bit, where I talked it up with a friend of mine, Dave, last week, because I'm like, look, I know I talk about this movie a lot with my friends, but I just really believe in this movie. I think that it got way put under the radar by a lot of Kevin Smith fans. And it's nothing but heart touching, and it reminds me of my childhood. Like when that movie was happening in 1986, I went to my first movie theater with my friend to see a movie on our own, and it was Jim Henson's Labyrinth. And that's even talked about in this movie, right? That they were like, I hope Labyrinth is the trailer type thing. So
the trailer, yep. That captured a lot, right? Like it's such a different experience now going to the movies than it was back then, right? Like going with your buddies in the afternoon, and even what they were doing was like where they would buy a ticket to one movie and just try to stay the entire day. Like I remember doing that. Like I think I'm lucky enough to be probably the last generation that really had that wholesome experience in the theater, right? And I just remember even thinking, like, don't you remember Wing Commander? Wing Commander was a shit movie, but the only reason it made a ton of money was because the Phantom Menace trailer was with that movie. Like people went to movies to watch trailers.
Yep. Well, that's the only way you could do it sometimes. Like it's funny because the YouTube didn't exist.
That's what I mean.
When
like
a trailer breaks, I just go, hey, let's go to YouTube and find it. And it's like back then, man, it was like, what trailers are playing in front? And then you get these shit ass movie houses like I had in town called the Film Factory. It was unaffiliated, and it would do its own trailers. It would mix it up. So Famous Players had those trailers, and we had crap. Oh, Wing Commander's here. Let's go see a Phantom Menace trailer. Nope. You got Porky's. I'm kidding, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, it was such a weird experience, and it did bring back, even for me, who I'm a little younger than that kind of generation, a lot of like cool, nostalgic, wholesome memories, and that's what I really liked about that movie. And it was a really good movie. I love the date that movie takes place in, with the
Yeah.
Hands Across America stuff. It was just overall a great movie, just fun movie. Really did like that. So that's one of the movies I watched. Is what it is. It was fine for what it was. This is exactly what you would expect from the Terrifier series. What else did I watch that night? Oh yeah, I watched Joker. Better than people said.
Joker 2.
Yeah, Joker 2.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. I haven't watched that. I don't know.
It's not
I
bad.
think it got slammed, but
It did.
it's not always right? Like, look, last show, I think we took a shot at Lord of the Rings Return, and that ended up being a good season. So, hey, I liked Borderlands.
I was going to talk about that. I liked it. If you know the IP and
Yeah.
you know what you're getting with Borderlands,
Yeah.
you liked it. I'm finding, But if you
Yeah.
don't know Borderlands, you don't know how outlandish it is, you don't know how stupid it is, you don't know how like crazy it is, you're not going to get it. You're not going to like it.
Yeah, and it's a fans movie. It's a fan service movie, and it
was
kind of botched
100%.
it a little bit because
It
they
did.
redacted so much out of the source material. But at its core, I didn't really have the big outrage problem that a lot of people did. I was like, okay, it's not gonna kill in the reviews, but it's a fun summer movie. And that's what it's meant to be. I think it got overcomplicated by the studios and everything like that. But overall, I thought the movie was, I was happy with
I
it.
didn't hate it. I laughed
Yeah.
a little bit. Claptrap had some great moments.
Yeah, you did. And, like, overall, like I say, the world was fun to see. Like everything just there's going to be no sequel to that. But 2K did announce in 2026 they are planning to release Borderlands 4.
Yep, I saw that.
So,
Honestly, Borderlands is better. It's a better series. I think a lot of
Yeah.
video games adaptations are better series than movies, and we're learning that a lot with things, right? Like
yeah,
Fallout, you would never be able to do a 2-hour movie.
yeah, Last of Us.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly.
certain
What else did I
things that
watch?
are episodic. Yeah,
Yeah, exactly. And I think Borderlands falls in that, especially the
Yeah.
world building and everything. But overall, Borderlands, not the worst. Joker 2, not the worst. Alien Romulus, fucking amazing.
Oh man, that took me 3 weeks to watch because I got about an hour into it, and then there's that scene with the face huggers. And I remember it was like midnight on a weekend. And I was like, nope, I can't do it. I got to sleep tonight. And then I had no bravery to go back and visit that until last week. I finally fired it up and watched it to the end and was really pleased. I was extremely pleased with the opening hour. I was very pleased with it overall. It got a little bit hokey, but you got to do something to make it itself.
The last half hour of the movie, in my opinion, could have been cut.
Mm-hmm.
Outside of that, and that was there again. I'm like to bring the various series together. That's all that served.
That was the homage to Alien 3.
Yeah,
like. You know what I mean? Like, it just got a little bit up its own butt, but
it did.
It's okay. Like, I've seen movies do way worse than that. So
Agreed.
It wasn't out of character for the franchise. And, I hear they're doing a sequel, or they're trying to get a sequel. So
they're doing a TV show.
And the TV show I'm excited about, which if you watch all the way to the end of Romulus, there's the trailer for the TV show.
Yep.
So it's
which I'm looking forward to. Then I changed it up a little bit. The last movie I watched last night, this morning at about like 4 or 5 in the morning, because my sleep schedule's more fucked than ever. Saturday Night, which is the movie that kind of tells the story of the last hour and a half before the first episode of SNL.
Oh, I haven't seen that yet. I'm kind of
good. It's very good.
That I want to see, and the show that I'm waiting on to get a digital access to is Dune Prophecy, which was on last night.
Yep.
And I know you and I both indulge in this, but I just want to share the love. Shrinking season 2 is absolutely
So
killer.
good.
It's
been so good.
I've never experienced this in like first season was fantastic, but Harrison Ford didn't really come on until the middle of the season and hit his stride.
He's been
He is,
in my opinion,
dialed.
stealing the show.
Yes, he is dialed. Him and Brett Goldstein
Yes.
are both like, man, it is a master class. And then each episode, I end up having a point where I'm hysterically laughing. I feel bad for a character, and I end up crying. Like all emotions get felt because you become so endeared to the characters and the pain they're going through or the struggle that they're having that you can't help but empathize with them to such a degree that you're like, oh, that must have been so hard to do. Like, I can't recommend it enough, and it's going to be done soon. And I know there's people who like to watch it all. This is a bit much to watch it all. The once a week thing is kind of the way to watch it.
Perfect. It is perfect for this show. What's weird, though, is that it's on Apple. It's the same executive producers as Ted Lasso, but it's not getting that attention that Ted Lasso gets.
No, and it's even the same writers. Like, Brett
That's what
Goldstein writes it, and he stars in it. But I think it just picked up because Brett's in it.
Yes.
Right? So now the word is kind of out, and he's doing press. It was kind of a secret at the end of the first episode. So, you know, I'm really happy about where all this is going, and I'm really happy as well that they're going to start shooting Ted Lasso season 4 February next year. So it's coming close. So it'll be out next year or the year after.
Yep. Yeah, the whole cast is great. Like even what's her face? Krista Miller from Drew Carey Show.
Oh,
she's awesome in it. And Jefferson, whatever his name is.
She plays the perfect wife that's seen it all from her husband. Like,
yeah, Jefferson from Married with Children.
Yeah, and then Gabby and Steven Seagal, and I'm just his daughter, the girl who plays her, does a great job. Like her relationship with Harrison Ford, like everything about it. The kid, the guy living in the backyard, the veteran, and his dad this season. Holy crap! So much good stuff, and even that girl who pushed her husband off the cliff.
Heidi Gardner from SNL.
Yeah, and she moved back up to Vancouver with her sister, and I was just like, there's so many wins. That's what I mean. You're cheering in one spot, and then the end of the episode, you're like bawling your eyes out going, oh, damn, like I didn't see that one coming. And last year, it was like 2 or 3 episodes that did it that were staged out over the season. It just feels like this season is a masterclass in each episode.
It has, you know what? I'm telling you, it's following the same formula as Ted Lasso, where the first season, they kind of introduce you, kind of, you know, take you out to dinner, and now you're getting a little nasty, getting things all warmed up, right? Like that's and I'm afraid where we're going to go after this.
Oh, I know, right? And I see people complaining about Ted Lasso season 3. I'm like, what did you watch? Like, but everybody's got a different viewpoint.
Anything, man.
I guess you're gonna complain. Yeah, Shrinking.
Go watch it. Really good. So much fun. Such a good show. Honestly, man. Like TV's keeping me sane. I haven't been able to really. I went out last weekend. That was basically it for the past 7 weeks.
Yeah.
My birthday's this weekend. I don't even. Honestly, it's a hassle to go out. I'm tired.
Yeah.
It's hard to maneuver, you know, with Ubers and stuff.
Yep. Oh, yeah. You know, you can't take public transit. And it's a pain. It's a pain.
It is a pain.
The walker's big and it needs to fit. into places.
And it's fucking tiring. It's tiring. And like one thing I've noticed is I just don't have energy. My energy just in and out. And I know it's focusing all on healing, but man, I have never been so tired in my life like I have in the past few weeks.
It is that, but it's also the seasonal change. Like the sun going down earlier now,
Yes.
the clocks and everything. That the older you get hits you harder and harder, I find. And I'm, in my seasonal depression right now, to be honest. Like I know that I'm in my tired mode and my, I get to weekends and I'm like, I think I'll just sleep in until 3 or 4 because
I've been sleeping so much. Like once I get to bed, like I basically sleep the day away. Anything else that you've watched that you want to talk about?
I did a 86-year-old man plant on Fall Guy. He sat down and he said, I want to watch a movie. So I said, okay, I'm not putting you on Netflix because you're going to choose the same movie that you choose every time. So I put him on a Prime Video and he sees Fall Guy and he goes, let's give that a try. And I'm like, do you remember the 80s TV show? And he's like, no. And I'm like, okay. So I started it up and I left him. And I came down about halfway through. I said, Dad, how do you find the movie? What the fuck is this? What is this shit? I'm like, oh, keep on watching. I go down when it's over. That was the worst show I've ever seen. That was also his last review of something that was Netflix made. I can't remember what I made him watch. But the first little bit, he was like, it's all right, but it's kind of getting stupid. And then by the end, he's like, that was the stupidest movie I've ever seen. Now, to be fair, these movies might not be that bad. But he's 86 and he wants action. And if he doesn't get action, this is crap. Like, he won't follow subtle storyline points.
Yep.
So that was my big comedy where I was just like, oh my goodness, like this world is changing. And for him not for the better.
I know, right? Which is I wish you had said that story as a segue into our topic du jour.
Could be. It relates right in.
Yeah. So okay, real quick. I just want to talk about one last thing, and then we'll touch on this again. Movies and critics and reviews and that fucking website with 3 letters that we don't talk about here on this show.
Yes.
It's just so funny. Red One got panned by critics. Have you seen the Rotten Tomatoes score of Red One? That's that new Christmas movie with The Rock and Chris Evans.
Didn't it get bombed by critics?
Yep.
That's the last
90%. But it's at 90% on the popcorn meter.
Oh, interesting. So people are enjoying it.
Yeah.
Imagine
my whole point here is critics sometimes need to have different bars. This movie is not going to win a fucking Academy Award, right?
No.
But they rate it the same.
It's meant to be Christmas candy for people to go and feel good about the season and have a laugh. I can tell you, it's an action Christmas movie. Let them have fun with it. Let the people enjoy. You don't have to be, the acting was subpar on so many different levels and blah, 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 blah. Like, come on, guys, get over yourselves.
Yeah.
It's a fun romp in the snow. There you go.
Exactly.
4 stars. Done.
Yeah. That's
Blind man review.
I just wanted to bring that up because it really does bother me. And I'm seeing this more and more and more, right? Like, it's like, especially with movies, it's like, I don't know what they rate, how they rate things.
Yeah. And the movies that sometimes get the highest ratings are not bad movies, but really slow movies.
They're a movie that they're slow moving movies that you're going to watch once in your life. Maybe.
Yep. Maybe. Yeah. Like, that's the funny thing. You're like, happy to watch it, but you're like, it's not going into my collection.
Here's a perfect example for me. No Country for Old Men. Great movie. only watched it once.
Yeah, for sure.
Titanic, only watched it once in the theaters,
Great
and that's
movie.
it.
Only watch it once. Yeah, I would agree. But Aliens, woof,
Yeah.
over and over. I'll bet
Right?
you that didn't critically rate.
Right, exactly,
Runner.
my friend.
Blade Runner.
Blade Runner
critically
is a
panned.
perfect example. Panned, but just marvel, just an absolute marvel of a movie with fans.
Labyrinth. They're releasing another 4K version tomorrow for $109.
Jesus. Speaking of Jim Henson, Saturday night, the guy that plays Jim Henson, dude,
Oh, really? Ah,
amazing.
now I really
stuff.
want to see this.
Yeah. Amazing stuff. And he plays two characters in the movie. He also plays Chevy Chase.
Oh, wow. That's awesome.
Yeah.
I want to see this movie.
It's good, dude. As soon as I saw Jim Henson, I'm like, oh, Phil's gonna fucking love this. Cause like he pulls it off so well. He pulls off Jim Henson so well.
Oh, that's great. That
Like
is fantastic.
including like his eccentric, attitude and stuff.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Him and Frank were on. They did a whole year of Saturday Night Live puppetry,
Mm-hmm.
and the whole cast hated them.
Just watch this movie. Great, really good movie, man. All right, so going back to your dad, right? Like, so how old is he? 86. My parents
86.
are in their 70s, and it pains me to have to make sure that I literally come home from Toronto to turn on Apple for them to watch TFC games, or make sure my sister does it. So, our topic du jour right now, we are going to be talking about the whole Jake Paul, Mike Tyson fight, and we're going to be talking about the issues there. But I wanted to talk about the broader issue. And are these streaming companies just putting all their eggs in the Gen Z millennial basket?
I think that they are in a way, but I don't even think it's a generational thing. I think it's just they see streaming as this revolutionary way to reshape an industry, and they're floating these huge deals, and companies like Netflix, Amazon Prime Video, and Apple are spending, and even YouTube are spending gourds of money to get these things on. Like Major League Baseball is on Apple on Fridays, used to be on YouTube. Pissed my dad off. TFC and the MLS all on Apple.
10-year deal.
10-year
You know,
deal.
that takes away the local coverage. This is why a lot of people hate the commentators and stuff, because they don't know the team. You get random assignments.
And that's one of the really big disconnects for me between my fandom of TFC and my fandom is withering on the vine right now, because I no longer have commentators that have any knowledge of the team. And these are even ex-players in some cases.
Yep.
But Maurice Adu is more about everybody else. You know what I mean? Like, I'm just like, and then you even have our national team behind One Soccer paywall, right? Which is an even deeper hole, because as far as I know, they don't even have an app. So
They do.
They do? Okay,
it's not
good. They do. Okay.
It's not good, but it's there.
So I just don't think that that's an ideal situation for growing the sport, because one of the big things for TFC and Canada soccer and things like that, like men's, women's soccer, was that you could turn on the CBC and get games.
Mm-hmm.
And the same thing with the CPL final. What did they do? They put it on CBC. All right. Brilliant move. But you need to put a game a week of the CPL on CBC. Sure, stream it on One Soccer. I get that there's a monetary deal with the company there. But It should be they rip that deal up and they go and they make a TV contract with Sportsnet, TSN, CBC, somebody in this country. Because that's the only way the game's going to grow. Because as they price these events out, you take away your TV component. And I get the argument that people are saying, well, people don't watch TV anymore. They do for sports, right? They do for sports.
But here, okay, so yes, you're right. And if you take a look at the recent NHL, NBA contracts, they're actually splitting up cable and streaming so that they can double the price, essentially, right? So, for example, the NFL, Netflix is going to be showing some Christmas Day games this year.
Yeah. And they're making them like the Super Bowl. They have Beyonce.
Well, fuck damn right you will. If you're going to be paying
you're going to make
so
it an
much,
event.
you might as well put... Exactly.
I've heard rumors that Taylor Swift is going to do one.
Yep. Here's the thing about the MLS, though, that gets to me. And, like, you hit the nail on the head when you said about growing the sport. I think people here, especially the way the CSA handles itself, the Canadian Soccer Association, the way that they handle themselves, is they forget how unpopular soccer is. Yes, this is the most popular it's ever been. Yes, you're going to get a lot of attention during major tournaments like, Copa America, like the World Cup and stuff like that. But on a day-to-day level, you're not going to be getting all of that attention. And so they have this weird mentality where they think that the sport is bigger than it really is, and it's kind of going against the whole mantra of having the MLS around. Because back in 1994, one of the only reasons why the U.S. even got the World Cup is because FIFA said you have to start your own domestic league and grow the sport.
And then Phil Anschutz carried that league on his own shoulders.
Yeah.
You have to remember all the teams were pretty much owned by one guy for a while.
Mm-hmm.
And now, they're fetching record money. And I think that's equated a very unhealthy attitude towards the fan base. Right?
I brought this whole example up. TFC. You know how much TFC paid to get a team in the MLS?
$10 million.
$6 million. $6 to $10 million. Somewhere in that ballpark. You know how much St. Louis paid and San Diego paid?
It's probably north of 300.
330. 330 million. That was their franchise fee.
Yeah. Unreal.
You know?
And that goes right to the league. And I don't see the league reinvesting in the mortar and pestle that, you know what I mean? Like the stuff that you need to invest in. I don't see refereeing getting any better. I don't see, you know what I mean? Like there's so many things that are just not right in this league. But the thing that turned me off so much about the MLS this year was how much it was all about messy. Every time I go into Apple TV, it's all like Apple TV MLS seasons past. It's all the pink shirt. And I'm like, this is too much. It's not my team. I told you what my team was. My team is red, right? Like, I want to see the TFC game first. I want to see up next to the TFC game. I want to see, I've already demonstrated that I do these certain patterns. I'll watch the MLS show the year before that they used to all just sit there, Caitlin and everybody, and they used to all just sit at the round table with the games going. Right? Because our game was later. So I'm like, all right, I get to see what the hell is going on in the league in a snapshot and get to hear some ex-players and some, you know what I mean? Like some commentary. And that doesn't even, it's there. I know it is, but it's not as accessible because they're like, oh, watch this hour-long thing about how Messi stepped onto a stage. You know, and I'm like, I love the guy. I think he's great for the league. I think he's great for Miami. I think he's fantastic, but you're becoming the Messi network. And, you know, that's part of Apple's fault because I'll guarantee you this $10 billion 10-year deal that they inked for the TV rights was contingent on Messi coming to the league.
Absolutely.
But, and I don't think that that's a healthy way. Remember when we used to have the debate, is it a healthy way to run the MLS when you're making it a designated player retirement league? And now we're kind of going back to that model in a lot of ways. I was so happy to see Miami get knocked out. Yeah. But Miami's becoming that model, right? Like they've got Busquets, is it? They've got Suarez, Beatty. You know what I mean? Like it's just like, man, all these guys are past their prime. Good for them. They're trying to be competitive, and they are. They largely scared the crap out of us at BMO Field. But I really think that Toronto FC needs to shed itself of some players and of the bigger names. But it's just, I don't know. I don't think people care as much about the team. If you watch the news, because I live with an 86-year-old man, so anytime I walk by a TV screen, he's watching the news. Watching the news, they don't mention TFC anymore. It's very rare.
Because it's not accessible.
Yeah, because it's not accessible.
Why is Bell on CP24 going to promote something that they have 2, 3, 4, 5 games a year for the entire season? Before they would promote it and talk about it because they had the entire season. But now that it's not part of their in their umbrella, why promote it?
Even though they partly own it for now.
For now.
But yeah, so like that's death right there. Like I know that given any Sunday, given any certain night during certain months, the TSN's going to the game's not on TSN, Dad. Why not? Because it's a CFL night. TSN pick up all the CFL games. That's the way it is. That should be the way it is for CPL. That should be the way it is for MLS. That should be, I don't mind a Friday night, like the games go to Apple, or the Monday night, the hockey games go to Prime, because that's reliable, right? I guess it's reliable when they all go onto one app too. But I can just tell you, like, it feels different. If my dad watches the Blue Jays on Rogers and Buck Martinez is there and Shill, and they're talking Blue Jays, and you know that these guys, like, they go down to Hazel May, and you know that all the players talk to them. They know everything about that team. But when you watch it on Apple, I've never seen it. They don't know anything about the Blue Jays. They don't know anything about Toronto.
No.
They don't know anything about Ontario.
It's an assignment. It's an assignment to them, right? It's an assignment. They have this one game that they're assigned to, and that really takes the fans outside of it, right? So MLS, it's clearly hurting MLS, but I honestly think it's going to be hurting the other leagues too, because let's say, your parents can't afford the streaming service and you're not streaming the games, you as a kid aren't going to be following these teams as close as we did.
No. And believe it or not, that's going to hurt financially, because they're also not
long term.
They're not going to be betting on those teams.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you think about it, like I could read, and I'm not proud of this, but I was such a Leaf fan at one point. I can still read a scouting report, deconstruct what the hell's going on, and I know where the good money is. If I've at least watched a couple games this season, I'll be like, too big of a pressure. I wouldn't take that bet. Back in our day with TFC, you and I knew stuff, who was injured, who was not, who was playing well, who we were expected to show against, who knew we were going to dog against, because we knew the next game was going to be a cup game for Voyageurs Cup. But most fans don't even get that you can compete in multiple competitions in one season.
Mm-hmm.
And most media don't get it. And most bettors don't get it. I'm sure all the English ones do, and the worldly ones. But I just think that it's going to hurt you on so many levels, that you've got such a big investment and risk base put into. We're like, well, the only way to make this financially viable is if we get people betting on platforms and watching the games and interested. But I just think they're just going to take their money elsewhere and do something else, like play video games for the kids.
Yeah, that's honestly what I think is going to happen. Like I think putting all of their eggs in the streaming basket is very, very short-sighted for the short-term gain. I think long-term it will hurt them.
Yeah, it's all about the upfront cash. Because every time we hear about a sport migrating to something, it's all about there was a sweet pay, right? There was a competition, there was a bidding war, they won, and then look at the absolutely brutal takedown of Netflix on Friday night. Like Netflix even had to make a statement about they know their service was below par. They know their response was not good. And that I've never seen a more hyped up sporting event online than that, because typically when I think of these boxing events, I think of them like it's a pay-per-view.
That's the thing, right? Because it wasn't technically a pay-per-view-ish.
Yeah.
All you needed was a subscription and you're good.
Yeah.
It was very accessible to people, right? Like if you think about it, you know, the early numbers were a little off. It was 65 million concurrent users at any given point were watching that fight. Like that is crazy. Like that is insane, right? Like those numbers are astronomical. 65 million people. And look, I was curious to see this in terms of the tech, because I was expecting this to happen, to be 100% honest. A few years ago, Netflix, and I think we talked about it on this show, where they tried to do a Love is Blind reunion special, and it crashed the entire site, and they couldn't even get the episode out, right? Like, to me, these are all tests. And then, starting January 6th, you have weekly TV on Netflix in the U.S. with WWE Raw every single Monday. They're not going to get 65 million people, but they got to be ready for those, not for those numbers, but they got to be ready, right? I know that they can handle certain numbers, but, you know, in the States, it's just Raw. But here in Canada and everywhere else in the world, it's going to be the entire WWE programming. It's going to be on Netflix. So it's just like they got to be ready for this stuff, right? The tech, just they need to beef it up and fast. And here's the thing, Phil. When you got to beef something up, you know who pays for it.
Yeah, the customer. And the worst part was is this fight was supposed to happen 6 months ago. And I think that fits into a build the infrastructure narrative so much better than the time frame we're in now, where they did finally get the cat, like the dog, to run the course. But now it's going to be a pressure chamber trying to get infrastructure in. I feel bad for everybody who works at Netflix and IT that's going to be doing whatever it is that they have to do over Christmas.
Yeah, man, it's gonna be crazy. And like we mentioned earlier, there's a full day of NFL games. Last year, the Christmas Day games averaged about 35 million. So we'll see what happens. That's the true test. NFL did call Netflix.
These names, right? If they get Beyonce, a great start. But imagine getting Taylor Swift or something like that. Oh,
yeah, exactly.
Come on. Like, there's going to be 100 million people watching this.
Could be.
Just
honestly,
for 15 minutes at the intermission. Yeah.
Yeah, it's going to be crazy. Look, an NFL questioned Netflix, and everything seems to be a go, because yesterday it was announced that Beyonce is going to be showing up. So obviously NFL has confidence in Netflix. I am very curious to see how this happens, right? And there's going to be a lot of eyes, right, in terms of infrastructure, because as you put more live TV on streaming, exclusively on streaming services, do we have the tech? Is the tech up to snuff? You know what? So far, no, It's not.
Yeah. That's true. Sure. You know what? Like one of the things that I found interesting, I just took a lark on it because I was having trouble with my TV. And you know me and Bob's Burgers, I have to get my daily fix. And anyhow, so I subscribed to that Slack TV. And it was so interesting seeing the on demand right now, like live on TV channels. And I'm thinking about the infrastructure running that, right? Like, because it's the same thing, right? I'm like, I wonder what the limit is and what the growth patterns are on all this stuff. And basically, it's a digital form of going back to TV. Like, we're going reverse now because Disney Plus is going to be doing this and whatnot, which is going to be a whole new model of how to mess things up.
Yep. Yeah,
At least in
it's
my
crazy.
opinion.
It's kind of funny, right? Like how we're paying for live TV through a streaming service rather than cable. It's just
Yeah, because we want
they've
live
eliminated the
TV.
middleman at this point, right? Like,
Yeah, we want live TV. Like, I know all the cord cutting and everything. And now when you go on Netflix, like my father will point out, it's all crap. Like everything is a Netflix produced movie pretty much, or it's a foreign movie. I had him watch a SAS movie, a SAS movie, like the European Forces movie last night. And I thought, oh, that's going to be violent and fun for him. And he was told me it was the crappiest movie he's ever seen because it was a foreign based out of market movie. And he was just like, I just don't like this. Like Netflix to him is getting a worse and worse rap because he can't find a movie that he likes, and they have very few of the older movies on anymore. And that's an interesting thing.
no, because everything is going to everyone is going to the studios that released it, right? The production companies and stuff.
Yeah.
Before,
the whole model's
Netflix was the
changing.
hub.
Yep.
Yep.
And now it's like, well, the Paramount movies go to Paramount. Disney movies go to Disney. You know, like they all hidey hole away. The only one that I find is half decent lately is Prime Video. Like you can get a mix of stuff, but you got ads. So like, man, you can't win in this world. I just remember when streaming
you can't win.
You watched it. Like there was no ads. There was you paid a price and that was it.
Exactly. We'll see, Phil. It's I'm interested to see. Our long story short, the tech right now isn't up to snuff. We'll see if we can get there. Christmas Day is a big test for Netflix. January 6th, WWE is a bigger test for Netflix. Especially that first episode. It's gonna be huge. I'm gonna honestly think that they're gonna get about 15 million people watching, to be 100% honest. Live.
Yeah.
Big episode. Live from LA. The new shiny arena in LA. So yeah. And with teams and sports, I think it's very much a short-term, short-sighted investment that people are making that could potentially hurt the sports long-term.
Yep. It's going to take a while to heal from that once they figure it out. All right. If you're looking to track us down on the website, we are at www.aplusproductions.com. You can find us on Instagram, X, YouTube, Twitch, Facebook, at itscanonpodcast.com. You can even start seeing us on Blue Sky. You can email us at show@itscanonpodcast.com, which is probably incorrect now, but maybe not. Forrest is nodding.
No,
you can subscribe via Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, Google Play, anywhere where you get podcasts. You're going to find the It's Canon podcast. So if you like what you hear, please make sure to leave a like, leave a review if possible, and tell your friends about the It's Canon podcast because we'd love to chat with you soon.
Exactly. Thank you so much for that, Phil. And thank you to all of our listeners for listening. And to those listeners that did kind of send a note, kind of asking what was going on. And thank you so much. And thank you for all the letters and notes and texts and everything of support. It really does mean a lot to me. We're going to be back next week, each and every single Monday, 7:30 p.m. Eastern. You can listen to us live on YouTube, on Twitch, and Facebook, and even X. We'll see how long that goes for.
Yeah.
But you can also listen to us on podcast form, like Phil said. Thank you so much for listening to us. This is the It's Canon Podcast, the show where we talk about all things pop culture, all things geek, all things sports, all things comic books, all things anything and everything. And the best part of it all is that it's all in canon. He's Phil. I'm Boris. Till next time, goodbye.
The fight sucked.